Guys, welcome to Tariq's class. I hope you guys are doing well. Today we're going to talk about some ELA contents that going to help you during your SHSAT exam. All right. So at first you will face some editing and revising questions, as you know. So the topics you have to know for this are precise revision, shift in verb tense, punctuations. I'm going to explain these terms in later video. Combining sentences, you'll have questions about how to combine sentences. Adjectives, adverb, like run-on sentences, error in construction. I will tell you what this is. And non-restrictive clause, okay? And the difference between that and which. I will explain these topics later in the video. And then you'll have the part B of the editing and revising. Then there you're gonna have an essay that you have to edit. So it's about introducing the topic sentence, the thesis. You have to edit that, support the sentence. That when you make a claim, you have to support it with the evidence, combining sentences, precise language, and adding sentence to improve the organization of the paragraph, and removing irrelevant sentences, improving concluding sentences. I'm going to explain these terms later in the video. First, let's talk about the part one, like part A here. So the standalone. So what is precise revision? So when you say when you state a sentence, it has to be precise. Like the words such as a lot, some, few, like millions. These are not precise. I'll be like, oh, what do you mean by a lot? When you say, okay, I have a lot of money, I'll be like, oh, what do you mean by a lot? Like, is it 5,000 a lot to you? $5 a lot to you? So you're gonna say precisely, okay, I have $5,000, something like that. So the words some, a lot, few, millions, so these kind of words, they're not precise, they're not specific. So we will have to remove those sentences. We'll do examples later. Number two, it says shift in verb tense. So if you have a paragraph that's in the past form, like using all the words, all the verbs in past, like for example, became, right? And then ran, worked. These are all past, right? So when a paragraph has the verb in past form and all of a sudden you just introduce a present, let's say eat. So that's called you shift in verb, which is not allowed in the editing and revising section. So punctuations, you have to know a couple of punctuations. The most important part is what goes at the end of the sentence, end of the independent clause or end of the sentence. You have to put, you can put a period, as you know, or you can put a semicolon, right? What other things you can put at the end of the sentence? You can put a comma followed by and. Remember this. A comma followed by and is like a period. You can put it at the end of a sentence or at the end of the independent clause. Similarly, you can say comma followed by but. So these two you have to remember very carefully. Comma and comma but, they're same as period. Okay, they can be used at the end of the sentence. You can use a semicolon at the end of the sentence, but you cannot just use a comma, right? Let's say at the end of the sentence you put a comma, so that's not allowed. You can put comma and, but not just a comma. I will describe them with examples later. So then what about combining sentences, right? So the combining sentences, they may give you two sentences and you have to just combine them, give it a relationship, right? To clarify the relationship. The relationship can be cause and effect, right? Maybe there's a cause and there's an effect. And the relationship can be a contrast or a comparison, right? Or it can be addition. Like, when you're saying a sentence and then you're adding on more. So we'll talk about it more later. So adjective. What is adjective? So adjective, you know that it describes what, guys? A noun or pronoun, right? That's what adjective does. So that's what the work for adjective. So what you have to know about adjective is, I will say, okay, let's say he is rich or wealthy. So the word he, pronoun, is described as rich. So this is an adjective. That's it. Now, when it comes to adjectives, sometimes you can say the adjective first and then the noun. Like for example, the rich, comma, handsome, comma, like Brian is actually a very good mathematician, so something like that. So you can list couple adjectives and then you have to use commas. Like that time you have to go, like, I would do one example, like agile, comma, athletic, Brian was a very good basketball player, something like that. So when you're listing adjectives before the noun, you have to use comma. Remember, listing adjectives. That is very common on the test. Now let's see. So adjective describes a noun, as you can tell, or pronoun, right? So what does adverb do? So you know that adverb describes a verb. It literally says it on the word adverb. Now when it describes a verb, let's set up a sentence. Let's say, okay, he runs. You see the verb is running, right? That's an action. Quickly. All right. So the running is described as quickly. So how he's running? He's running quickly. So this is an adverb. Right? Now what I'm going to say is adverb can describe an adjective as well. You'll be like, what do you mean by that? So I give you an example. He is rich before with the adjective, right? He is rich. So here he was the noun, a pronoun, and it was explained by rich. So rich is an adjective. So how I can describe this adjective? I can say he is very rich. So the word rich, which is adjective, can be described further by the word very, which is an adverb. So an adverb describing an adjective. That's the second part. Adverb can also describe another adverb. That's the amazing part. You'll be like, oh, adverb can describe a verb, an adjective, and another adverb. Yes, let's see how. Well, as we use the sentence, he runs quickly, right? Here runs is the verb and adverb is quickly. So because that's describing the verb, we can further describe the quickly. We can say he runs very quickly. Exactly. Very quickly. So here quickly was adverb. We're further describing the adverb with very. This is another adverb. So you can see that an adverb describing another adverb, right? Here an adverb describing adjective, right? And before this is a verb, so this is an adverb describing a verb. So that's it. So let me explain it again. So adjective describes noun and pronoun. Adverb describes everything else, like a verb, adjective, and an adverb. All right, impressive, right? All right, now let's go for what is a run-on sentence. You guys mostly know about run-on sentence. When the punctuation goes wrong, it keeps going. So that's called run-on sentence. We're going to do some examples of that later in the video. And then we have error in construction. This is a funny one. So when you construct a sentence wrong, the whole meaning actually changes. So I'm going to show you that. For example, I'm going to give you a sentence. The book is on the bed that I borrowed from the library, right? So the book is on the bed that I borrowed from the library. Now look at this sentence very carefully. How does it sound? So remember, when you use the word that or which, these two words describes the noun or the clause right next to it. Whatever it is next to it, that's what it describes. Now what does that mean? You see the word that. So what is next to it? Bed. So the that is describing the bed. So now look how it looks like. So the bed that I borrowed from the library. So it sounds like you borrowed the bed from the library. So this is a construction error. the word that should be after the book. The actual sentence should have been, the book that I borrowed from the library is on the bed. So this part will come at the end. The book that I borrowed from the library is on the bed. So that's called the construction error. So if you construct it wrong, the whole meaning is going to change. So remember the word that, which, or if it's who, also the word who, whose. So these words explains the word right next to it. Okay, now let's work on non-restrictive clause. What is that? So non-restrictive means this is a clause that's an optional clause. Optional means something that's not important to the sentence at all. Like I would say, let's say make a sentence. The book, comma, which Tariq bought at the bookstore, let's say, right, comma, was bright green. So now let's take a look at it. So the book, comma, which Tariq bought at the bookstore was bright red. So the main deal is, like, the book was bright green. That's the main part. So the extra piece of info was this, which Tariq bought at the bookstore. So this is an extra piece of information that's optional. So if I remove this optional part, still the sentence has to make sense. So if I remove it, let's say I crossed it out, now it sounds like the book was bright green. That's the main deal. The book was bright green, and I gave some optional, like, extra piece of information inside of this, which Tariq bought at the bookstore. That part is called non-restrictive clause. Means you can remove it and still the sentence will make sense. So when you have a non-restrictive clause, it starts with a comma and it ends with a comma. So it has to be in between two commas. Now the thing is, so that brings me to the next part, like that and which. So when do we use the word that and when we use which? Remember that that is important. You'll be like, oh, what do you mean by important? It means the word that, when you use the word that is important to the sentence. And when you use the word which is optional, like not important. So we use the word which in times of non-restrictive clause. Like here, you see, the book which Tariq bought at the bookstore was bright green, so I had to use which. If I were to say the book that Tariq bought at the bookstore, then I couldn't use these two commas here. That would make it optional. So when you say the word that, it cannot be optional. I'm going to further describe it with more sentences with that and which. I'm going to give you two different sentences to see the difference between that and which. Now let's say I have this sentence, our home, okay, oh sorry, our home, which has 3 bedroom, is located, right, is located, let's say, in the New York City. All right, so this is the first sentence where I used which, and you see, as you can see, I used 2 commas. So this is a non-restrictive clause, so it's not important to the sentence. So the main deal is our home is located in the New York City, which happen to have 3 bedrooms, but that's not the main deal for this sentence. The main deal is our home is located in the New York City. But if I were to use that, like our home that has 3 bedroom is located in the New York City, sorry, right? Let's take a look at this one. So when you use the word that, so it became important. Now here it sounds like there are a bunch of homes. Probably this person owns a bunch of homes. So the one that has 3 bedroom is on the New York City. So here, this word that is specifying which home he's talking about. So the word that is very important. Not just any home, the one that has 3 bedroom. So here this word is that. This is important, and this is not non-restrictive. Now it becomes restrictive clause because this is important. The whole part of it is important. You cannot remove anything. It's not optional. So these are the 10 main types of editing and revising you will need to work on. So I'm going to do some questions and that will help you. So let's say the first question is about which of the most, let me just zoom it in a bit so it will help you more. So it says, they gave you a sentence here and they asked which of these is the most precise revision. Remember the first type precise, as I said, a few, some, a lot, these are not precise. Now in this sentence, during a nightly news segment about a cooking contest, a reporter talked to some people who did the best in the contest. So you see the word some, that's not precise, that's not specific. So we're going to remove, you see like which one is the best revision for this part, like talk to some people. So look at letter A, it says conversed with some. Again, the word some, we don't want it, so we can remove A. Spoke to 3 contestants who did well. Now the word well is not specific either. So I'm like how well, like little bit well, very well. What do you mean by that? So it's out. Discussed the contest with some. Again, the word some, we don't want it, so it's out. And this is the only thing remains that must have been the answer. And also it says interviewed the top 3 contestants. So this is more specific and precise. So that was the precise language that I talked about, number 1 that we dealt with, like precise revision. This is the example. Now let's do the second question. It's about the shift in verb, the second type. Excuse me. Like how does this shift in verb works? So let's take a look at it. In this paragraph, the word was, and then if you see who owned, and these are all like past, right? And then this whole paragraph is in past tense. Now all of a sudden, in sentence 3, you see the word becomes. That is what? Present. So this is a shift in verb. You cannot just shift the verb. It's supposed to be became. So sentence 3 is the problem. All right. So that was the verb tense. The second, the shift in verb tense. We did one example. All right. Now let's go for the third one. It says the animal shelter, which is located on Midway Street, is looking for volunteers to help a variety of tasks, such as walking dogs, cleaning kennels, hand feeding. Well, you see, they're listing a bunch of work. So walking dogs, cleaning kennels. So these are like some list of works. So when you're listing things, what do you guys put? A comma. So you have to put a comma after dog. This is a punctuation question. I'm going to put a check mark later. Now, number 4, it says there are 2 sentences, 1 and 2, and they said what is the best way to combine these sentences. As I said, we have to give it a relationship like cause and effect, or we have to put like, you know, make a comparison, or if we're doing an addition, just addition to like 2 different information in addition to one to another. Now let's answer what is the relationship between the ideas. So flyby missions near Jupiter have been happening since 1973. Okay. Now the second one says flyby missions allow scientists to collect data about Jupiter and its moon. So it looks like these are the 2 pieces of information. They're adding on, putting it together. There is no contrast. There is no cause and effect. So let's look at E. Flyby missions near Jupiter, which allow scientists to collect data about the planet and its moon, have been happening since 1973. Now guys, do you guys see a non-restrictive clause here? Yes, you see the part here, it says what? Which allow scientists to collect data about the planet and its moon. So this is an extra piece of info. They use 2 commas to offset it. So if I remove it, still it makes sense. Flyby missions near Jupiter have been happening since 1973. So nothing wrong with this sentence yet. So let's look at the other options. So F says although. Okay, so the although is the word is negative, like something contrast. So this is not a contrast. Now G says flyby missions near Jupiter allow scientists to collect data about planet and its moon, which. So as I said, guys, when you use the word which, that, who, whose, stuff like that, right? So these words describes the words, the noun right next to it. So you see the planet and its moons, which, so it sounds like the planet and its moons have been happening since 1973. Where it's supposed to be what? We're talking about the mission have been happening since 1973. And that's perfectly done in E, like flyby missions, which allow scientists. So this is right next to it. So E is the right answer in this case, but G is not, because here it sounds like the moon and the planet is being described as have been happening since 1973, which is not the case. Now, since 19, again, the word since is used for what? Cause and effect. There is no cause and effect. So we'll go with the answer E. All right, so that was like, so far we have completed. I'm just going back to see, we did the punctuations, right? The commas, but we'll do more punctuations. The combining sentence we just practiced, remember. And then we have number 5. So it says, which sentence should be revised to correct a vague pronoun? There was one, remember, vague pronoun means, this is one of them. You have to understand that when this pronoun is not right. Now, for example, Eliza and Brianna have been singing in their school. And then second sentence says, the girls always sing duet in the school, right? And the third says, outside of the school, she. Well, now this is the problem. The first sentence and second sentence talked about 2 girls, right? So it should have been they, or we don't know who she is. You're talking about Eliza or Brianna. So this is an unclear pronoun. So I don't know who you are referring to with this she. So that's called vague pronoun. That's where the mistake is. So it's letter C. Number 6, it's an adjective question. You'll be like, oh, how? Let's see. In 1962, the agile, athletic Wilt Chamberlain became the first and only professional basketball player in the United States to score 100 points in the same game, single game, right? So now let's take a look at it. The Wilt Chamberlain is a person, it's a noun. He's been described as agile, which is fast, and also athletic. So 2 adjectives. Remember I talked about it before when you are listing adjectives somewhere here. Okay, here. Listing adjectives, you have to use what? Commas, because you're listing adjectives to explain that noun. So you have to put a comma. You have to put a comma in between agile and athletic. So we need a comma after agile. So let's practice more. Now here it says, which sentence should be revised to correct the run-on? So we talked about it. So it's pretty simple. The run-on means it's continuing, like where you should put a period or something, but it just continues. Let's look at number 1. In September 2016, the National Museum of African American History and Culture opened. So this is one sentence already. It's a complete sentence, so you cannot just put a comma at the end of the complete sentence. All right, at the end of the complete sentence, what are the things we can put? You can put period, you can put semicolon, you can put comma followed by and, or comma followed by but, right? These are the 4 most famous. So they just put a simple comma, so that's a problem. So it's an end of the independent clause, means this itself is a full sentence. As part of the Smithsonian Institution, the museum is already blah, blah, blah. So we have a problem in sentence 1. I mean, that's the answer, because that's the run-on. Number 2 says, to promote their club. It's a problem with the construction, guys. Let's see if you can figure it out. Like the to promote, the construction, the one we did, the book is on the bed that I borrowed from the library, how it was so wrong. This is also pretty wrong. Look at this. To promote their club. So who are these they? Right? You have to explain it right after this. To promote their club, a bake sale? Is the bake sale the people? No. So when you talk about promote their club, you're talking about these people are the members. Like if you look at letter G, it says to promote their club, members of the debate team. Okay, so we know that when you said there, you referred to the members. So whatever you explain, right, the modifier has to be right next to the noun you modify. It means whatever you're explaining, it has to be right next to it. So to promote their club, you're talking about the members. So the members has to be right next to their club. I mean there, the word there, here, right? So look at E, to promote their club on Wednesday. So this there is not the Wednesday. On Wednesday, to promote their club, a bake sale will be sponsored by members of the debate team. On Wednesday to promote their club. Again, there is not the bake sale, so that's the problem. So G is fine. H says members of the debate team on Wednesday to promote their club will sponsor a bake sale. Now here, take a look at it. Members of the debate team, comma, on Wednesday will so now the part on Wednesday to promote their club, it's a very important part of this sentence. You cannot make it non-restrictive by putting two commas. Non-restrictive means what? We can remove it and still it makes sense. So if I just remove it, it sounds like members of the debate club will sponsor a bake sale. The main important part to promote it will be gone. So we don't take this 3, we go with G, because the member to promote their club, members did blah blah blah. Construction error, remember. Number 3 says, which sentence should be revised to correct an inappropriate shift in verb? Again, the shift in verb. So if you look at number 1, has spent, which is past. He did, the word did is past. And then he studies, the word studies is actually present. Studied would have been past. So this is where the verb shifted, which is not allowed. So sentence 3. Now number 4, the Colosseum in Rome. So Rome is a city and Italy is the country. So we need this comma here, because that's what they said, the correct punctuation. So we need this comma because we are stating the city and the country. City, comma, the country. So we need that comma there. Now let's take a look at what's the problem then. Oh, sorry. All right. Okay, now you see the part here which is considered one of the new 7 wonders of the world. This is a non-restrictive clause. It should start with a comma and end with a comma. So they put the comma here, but they didn't put a comma here. So we need a comma after Italy to turn this part into non-restrictive clause. Remember, non-restrictive clause means you don't need it, so you can remove it and still it'll make sense. The Colosseum in Rome is the largest amphitheater ever built and could hold more than 50,000 spectators. So that's the main deal, but this extra piece of info needs a comma here. So we need a comma right before the word which. Now next one, number 5. So they gave you a sentence. The engineers tried some of, this question is what is the most precise revision. So again, remember, we don't like the word some when it comes to precise. So there's a problem. Tried some other things in hoping of finding a more effective insulation. Okay, so let's check out the options. The engineers did experiment with several. Okay, several is also not precise. The engineers tested foam and fiberglass. Very nice. Okay, C says the engineers did tests with 2 new materials. So only 2, but we don't know what are those materials. B is more specific. D says the engineers, so we don't want A or C. The engineers worked with foam and fiberglass. So what is the difference between B and A and D? So what should be the answer? Now look at it. When they said the engineers worked, so we don't know what kind of work. Did they tested it, or did they put to use, or what did they do? So that work is not specific. So here tested is more specific than worked. So we're going to go with B. Well, that was for editing and revising section part A. So I'm just going to go to explain these again. So we did some adjectives, like how we had to use commas, right? Adverb. Adverb, I showed you some examples. Run-on sentences, errors in construction, non-restrictive clause. That and which. That is important, which is not important, which is mainly used for non-restrictive clause. Now the second part of the editing revising is called part B. So they give you an essay and you have to edit it, make it better. By how? So these are the type of things like introducing the topic sentence, supporting the claim, a bunch of things. Let's do an essay together. We'll understand how to deal with it. Here. So essay, the thing is, okay. So let's look at it. So it says unlock, write, and return. So it's somebody wrote an essay and they titled it Unlock, Write, and Return. So now let's see how this essay is a problem. So first he wrote, in metropolitan areas around the world, millions of cars, trucks, and taxis pack the street every day, causing headaches for commuters and polluting the environment. Now, public transportations is some of it, but not all of it, right? And then in recent years, like sentence 3, it says, in recent years, another transportation option has been gaining momentum in some cities. This option is all about sharing bicycle, which is creative and new idea for some. So you see, this is not a good way of introducing the topic sentence, right? It says, oh, the option is all about sharing bicycles. So he made the claims pretty well, nicely. He developed the paragraph, and he ended with the sentence that's supposed to be the main topic sentence, and he messed it up, whoever wrote this essay, right? So we have to edit it. So as you can see, the first question here is about which sentence should replace the sentence 4 to introduce the topic sentence of this passage. So what should have been, so here what we're understanding that the person is trying to say that, okay, there are a lot of problems with the traffic, and there is this new type of transportation gaining momentum, means growing in popularity, and that should be bicycle, right? Sharing bicycles. So let's look at the options. What will be the best way to state the topic sentence? A says bike share programs have become an accessible and environmentally friendly solution for many urban travelers. Well, maybe, let's see. B says bike share programs are successful. Hey, hold on a second. We don't know if it is successful or not. So B is gone. C says bike share programs offer an alternative form of transportation in urban areas that is faster. We don't know if it's faster. They didn't talk about it being faster. Bike share programs have created an affordable mode of transportation. They didn't talk about money. If you look at throughout the essay, they didn't really talk about money at all, if it's affordable or not. So we'll go with A. Now let's look at the essay a little bit more so you understand better. So it's talking about how bike sharing program is getting momentum. It's becoming more popular. It's helping people. Now if you look at the first line of the other paragraphs, that talks a lot about what's going on throughout the essay. Like, I wouldn't recommend reading the whole thing at first. So sentence 5 says the bike share concept is fairly simple. The bike stations are set up multiple. So this talks about how it works, like how it is a simple process. So if you read sentence 11, it says the largest bike sharing program is in the United States. So it's about the bike sharing programs in the United States, and then it talks about how it is probably like so many evidences, like, you see the numbers telling so many evidences how it is so big in the United States. Now here sentence 17 says New York City officials estimated that in 2016 the bike share program had kept nearly 5,000 tons of carbon dioxide out of the city air. So it looks like how bike sharing program helps the environment. And at the end, it's just conclusion, means repeating what's happening, restating. So let's deal with the question. So now you see how the topic sentence questions we have to deal with. Let's go for question 8. It says which sentence can best follow sentence 6 to help to develop the idea of the second paragraph. So sentence 6 is here. Bike stations are kept up at multiple locations in the city. Well, the second paragraph was about the bike share concept is fairly simple. The stations are set up in multiple locations. The second paragraph is about how the bike sharing program works. So let's see what will be the best way to support it more, right? Like develop this paragraph. Bike sharing program stations that are located near tourist destinations or major. So it's not about tourists, it's too specific, it's not. Well, F says a person obtains a bike from one station, rides it for a period of time, and then returns it exactly what it is. So this second paragraph was about how it works. So this is a very nice description of how the person taking it, using it, returning it back. So this will explain the claim pretty well. Number 9 says, what is the best way to combine sentence 8 and 9 to clarify the relationship between the ideas? So it's a combining sentence, so 8 and 9. So let's see what type of sentence 8 and 9 is. So sentence 8 says, many city bikers prefer bike sharing over ownership. So city bikers, they prefer bike sharing. And then it says they are not responsible for the bike's storage or maintenance. So many city bikers, they prefer bike sharing. But why? Because they are not responsible for the maintenance, right? So they don't have to take care of the maintenance. So it's a cause and effect. The reason they like it is because they don't have to maintain it. So now let's see how. So first it says, although they prefer bike share, not the although word. We're going to use since or because, right, for cause and effect. So many city bikers prefer ownership and. The word and, like simply comma and, simply means adding on, right? You're adding two sentences, no other relationship. So it's not A or B. It's either C or D. So when you use, guys, you have to be careful about it. So when you use the word since, we state the cause first and then effect. Alright, but when you use the word because, we state the effect first and then cause. You're like, what do you mean by that? Right, take a look at it. Here it says, since many city bikers prefer bike sharing. So this is they're saying this is the cause and this is the result. So they're saying since they prefer it and that's why no maintenance. No, it's the other way around, right? Since there are no maintenance, that's why they prefer it. So that's why C is not the answer. Look at D. Many city bikers prefer bike sharing program. Well, this is the effect that they're preferring it. The reason is why? They are not responsible. When you use because, effect is first and then cause, which is right. So effect and cause. So D is the answer. Be careful about it. When you say since, first cause, then effect. When you say because, first effect, then cause. Alright? The effect of the question. Alright, now here. Number 10 says, which revision of sentence 14 use the most precise language? You know, we already talked about precise, how it works. So, you know, precise, it says in 2016, the data revealed the city bike used millions. So then again, we don't know how many millions. That's not precise. And F says 14 million trips. Okay, that's good. Recorded in city bike, which adds up to huge increase in percentage. But again, we don't know what percentage. So that's not precise. In 2016, city bikes documented nearly 14 million trips. That's precise. The amount of increase of 40%. That's also precise. So we're going to go with the G. Number 11 says, which sentence should be added before sentence 17 to improve the organization of the fourth paragraph? So which sentence should be added before sentence 17? So this is organization improvement, 17 sentence. Let's see. It's here. It says the New York City officials estimated that in 2016 the bike share program kept nearly 5,000 tons of carbon dioxide out of the city. So this line says how the bike sharing program actually helped the environment. Before it talked about like other benefits, now it's saying that the environment is also kind of going to be safe. So let's see now what sentence should be added before it to make it better. So the sentence 17 is about how the bike sharing program helped the environment. So what should I put before that? So experts increasingly want to discuss the positive effects. So there's nothing want to discuss, not about their wanting to discuss. B says, while bike sharing program offer clear benefits to riders, some people cite another reason. Well, yes, the reason is what? Clear environment, right? Like helpful environment. So B will be the answer. But if you look at C, if bike share programs are going to continue to increase in popularity, it's not about popularity, because the example about 5,000 tons of carbon dioxide was about a benefit. So we'll go with the B. 12 says, which sentence could best follow sentence 18 and support the main point of the fourth paragraph? Right? So bike share programs are developed in city mainly to improve air quality. Well, it says which sentence could best follow sentence 18. So let's see what sentence 18 is. So sentence 18 was this: officials in Montreal, Canada and bunch of places have noted similar impacts on the air quality. So they got good air qualities because of the bike sharing program. So what sentence should follow this, means come after? So bike share programs are developed in cities mainly to improve quality. Okay, the word mainly is extreme. That's not the main reason. Participating in a bike share program is main way travelers can improve air. That's not the main way, and there may be other ways. G says cities may begin to experience improved air quality as more travelers use bike share program. Maybe let's see if we find a better one. Bike share programs may be more effective at improving air quality in some cities than the other. So we don't know. They didn't make any comparison between which cities they should have more air quality. So it's not H. So G is the best answer you can have. So 13 says, which sentence is irrelevant to the third paragraph? which sentence is not important. So I'll give you an idea here. If you look at the third paragraph, it was about the largest bike sharing program in the United States. So what becomes, so the first 11 is fine, sentence 11. 12 says, known as City Bike, the program was launched in blah blah time, that's fine. Across the 600 station Manhattan, these are all related to New York City. And then you say, similarly in China, a city of 7 million residents there. Okay, so where did China come from? So that's irrelevant, man. 13, sentence 13 is irrelevant. So that's why we put the answer 13, because it was about United States and all of a sudden it shifted to China. That's not right. Number 14, which concluding sentence should replace sentence 20 to better support the improvement? So it's about the concluding sentence, like ending sentence. So it says 20 here, bike sharing is a new mode of transportation. Well, the last line of the essay should be restating the topic sentence, like mainly what you were trying to talk about. So let's look at the option how to end this essay. What is the best way? Over time, bike sharing may become routine part of modern urban life. Maybe, let's see, because they started it like it is getting the momentum or something. F says even small or medium-sized cities can benefit from implementing a, so the word even, small or medium, so I don't think they meant, it's nothing to do with the size. Compared with other solutions, they didn't compare with other solutions. We didn't talk about any other solution. H says ultimately bike sharing is an interesting and unique way for tourists to explore. It's not about just tourists, so it's E is the best answer. All right. So let's go back and take a look at what are the topics I listed before. So we dealt with the topic sentence, right? How to change it. We did deal with like how to support sentences, right? By adding a new sentence. Combining sentences, right? Cause and effect or additions. Remember with since, we say cause and then effect, with because first effect and then cause. The reason I say effect is because the word is starting with E. So I'll just tell you this one side thing. So effect and effect, what is the difference, guys? So remember, the effect is used for as a noun and effect is verb. All right. So like, let's say the disease affected me. So the disease is affecting, right? So that's the action. And here the effect of disease is pretty harmful. The effect of disease. So you have to use that as noun. We dealt with precise language. So let's say adding sentence to improve the organization. We did like removing irrelevant sentences. We did that. Improving the concluding sentence, like how to end the essay, right? We dealt with that as well. Okay, now let's work on a poem. You guys gonna have one or two of them. Okay, here. This is a nice poem. Let's work on it. Says cross purpose. So what does the first stanza says? Let's do it together. We have to interpret it, like read it right and understand what's going on. So let's zoom it in a bit. All right. So it says what I am, it's a cross purposes. So what I am is built, concrete and steel. So we know that, okay, someone is talking, he is built, and they introduce it. He introduced himself as concrete and steel. So it's concrete and steel. And what does it say? I defy gravity. So it is very strong. I am what every athlete wants. Okay, why athlete wants concrete and steel? To remain at the apex of the leap. Yeah, how athletes, they do workout and they use concrete and steel a lot to be strong and healthy. And yet I'm useful too. Let's see, what is it useful for? Cars, trucks, people, even trains make their way across my broad back, like bridges and all. Swallows and ospreys nest in my trusses. So ospreys like birds. So they build their nest on concrete and steel. So we see that this is concrete and steel talking and showing some sort of pride. And let's see who is on the other hand. What I am is motion. All right. Like motion is some sort of movement, like fluctuation. I am water and I'm older. Okay, so it's water. And I'm older means it's trying to say it's been there for a long time. Then older than anything else you know. So older than everything else. No human built me. I am gravity's best friend. I pull and flow wherever gravity takes me. I'm the blood flowing in the runner's chest. So you know the blood flowing in the runner's chest is made. It means runners, they drink water, so they need water. And I catch everything from the hills, the mountains. It all washes down through me. So what we understand is, on the other side we have water, and water is saying that how it is also useful, and we can sense the pride in it. All right, let's see what concrete has to say. What are you is an accident. Okay, so that's like now insulting term. The concrete is insulting the water. What happens to rain when rain gives in to Earth's gravitational pull? You are some tears. Okay, the word tears is like sense of weakness. So you are some tears dribbling from a mountain's eye, running down the pavements of small towns into the cities to the sea. You are the path of least resistance. So we can see that concrete is trying to insult the water. So let's see what water says now. What I am is power. You of course have none. You are a static lump, an artifact slowly decaying. So water is saying, okay, you are gonna decay, but my regal flow nourishes grasses, permits empires to rise. Those who made you will break you. So you know how concrete people make it, they break it. In time, replacing you with yet another clumsy structure. So after breaking it, they're going to make something else with these broken parts. I have seen, I know. So here, water is trying to say, I have seen, I know means it's old, it's been there for a long time, so it knows. Let's see what concrete says. Clumsy, being rebuilt, makes me a friend of time. So how does it not? Like he's trying to say if it gets rebuilt, so it will be there forever. And it means that I have siblings, the clumsy structures by sisters and brothers. So when it gets rebuilt, it looks at it as like brothers and sisters. We stitch across the rip you make. We are steel thread to the human needles. Means concrete and steel helps humans to build things like they are tools. We bind you up, we sew you. So technically we use concrete and steel to build up things, fix things like tools. So now water says, and I sew it to you. In every cranny of your superstick structure, my vapors cling. They bring out your softness, your rust. Boast your best, means boast as much as you want. And boast better yet, I am listening to the bright hum of the wind in your wires, because I am above all's patience. So water is saying, keep saying whatever you want. I am patience. Patient means I will be here, and I'll be here forever, and one time you will not. So I will wait for you. So this is the sense of age that water will have. So as you can understand the poem, if you can look at it, so water and concrete and steel, they're having an argument. They're saying that who's better, the sense of pride, and they gave some different reasons. So let's answer the questions. So it's very important that you understand the poem before answering the questions. Then it says, how does the similar construction of the sentence in line 1 and line 8 contribute to the meaning? So line 1 and line 8 has similar construction, and we want to know why. So let's see. Line 1 is about, it's saying what? What I am is built, concrete and steel. It's like I see that proper introduction here. I think what I am is built means something that's strong, that's built. And here in line 8, water is saying what I am is motion, like something fluctuating, and I'm water and older. So simple introduction is happening. So as you can see the options here, E says it introduces the intent permanence. So the built means intended permanence of the structure. The main keyword is it introduces water and the concrete, but it's very important that we do the process of elimination. I wouldn't just mark it as an answer. First I would do process of elimination. Let's say F says it shows that structure can bridge the gap. So it didn't talk about bridge or anything yet in the sentence 1 and 8. It suggests that the structure has more limitation than water. They didn't make any comparison yet. It contrasts the stability of the structure. There was no contrast yet, so E is the answer. Process of elimination makes it simple, and look at how we eliminate things by the keyword here: bridge, more limitation, and contrast. These are the words that help me remove the option, right? The process of elimination using the keywords. All right, now let's talk about 43. says read the lines 2 to 4. It's like, I am what every athlete wants, to remain at the apex of the leap up in the air. Who was this? Concrete, right? And water said, I am the blood flowing in the runner's chest, and I catch everything from the hills and the mountains. So how do these lines contribute to the development of the idea? So what's going on these lines? So they establish that both the structure and the water have endurance and control. So endurance is like everlasting, like long lasting. So what we can understand here, that water was the one older and it will be there forever. So not the concrete. So it's not A. B says they highlight that both the structure and the water are powerful and impressive. Maybe. C says they suggest that the structure and the water are unaware, or they are not unaware of anything. D says they reveal that the structure and the water are surprised. They weren't surprised for anything, so C and D is out. So B. You see the keywords helps me remove the options. That works with every option. There is at least one word that is wrong and that is violating the option. Now let's see 44. Read line 7 from the stanza. Swallows and osprey nest in my trusses. So how does the line contribute to the development of the idea in the stanza? So the line supports that the structures claim that it is beneficial to nature. Beautiful, maybe. F says the line reveals that the structure secretly envies. So you see, there was no talk about secret envies. G, the line emphasizes that the structure is more valuable. So the word more valuable, the whole poem was unbiased, means they didn't pick a side. So who was more valuable, we still don't know. H says the line reveals the kinship that nature shares with the structure. There was no kinship to talk about. It's just the line supports the structure's claim that it is beneficial to nature. Okay, now 45. Your some tears dribbling. No, so tears is the sense of weakness. This is what concrete was telling water. Now, trying to insult it. Now, what impact do the phrase some tears dribbling, running down means? They suggest that naturally flowing water is a problem. No, there was no problem. They highlight the different types of water. No different types. They imply that the flow of water is weak. Yes, the word weak, influenced by the landscape. Exactly, that's what it is. This is so simple, and if you look at D, they highlight that the flow of water from the mountain is minimal compared. So they didn't compare anything here. 46, so the comparison to showing in line 33 to 35 helps show the structure and hence the beauty of natural landscape, maybe brings people together more effectively than nature. Okay, that's not people being together as a problem, and more effectively was also a problem. So it's not F. Provides clear boundaries for natural environments, nothing to do with the boundaries. It serves as means for people to overcome obstacles created by nature. Actually, that's what it is, because human needles, the threads on the human needles here, this line. We are thread to the human needles, so the word human here means so they help human being overcome obstacles. So H is the answer. H is the answer. 47. The last stanza, line 36 to 42, conveys the central idea of what? So the last stanza was here. So this is about how water is gonna wait, overall patient. He will wait for the structure to get destroyed, get decayed. The last stanza says, demonstrating that both structure and water depends on each other. They didn't depend on each other, implying that a stronger structure, they didn't compare any structure like stronger or weaker. So you see the keywords kind of helps us remove the option, revealing that the passage of time will render both the structure and the water obsolete. No, right? The thing is not both. Revealing that the time will keep the water, but not the structure. So it's not about both. So suggesting that the water will eventually weaken the structure and will continue to exist because it is patient, it will wait forever. So water will be there forever. So 48, read the lines here. Because I am above all else patient and I will wait. So which other line supports this claim? So it's about the age and how older he will be always there, everlasting. So E says I am older than anything else you know. So it's about being older, the time. So that is what supports it, similar. 49 says How does the poet develop the points of view of the structure and the water? By relating, well, it's actually personification, as I can see this word. So D, definitely by using personification. You guys know personification means, right? Using non-living things to allow the debate in this poem. How does the form of the poem contribute to its meaning? So the form of the poem, the use of an equal number of lines in each stanza emphasizes that both speakers are equally important. Not really. The equal number of lines says nothing. As you can see, I think G here, the alternating positions of the stanzas highlight the opposing point of view. You know, the alternating position means, like, you know, one was on the left and then another on the right side, then left to right. The position changes. So this position says the opposing, means they're opposite of each other. They're opposing each other, like arguing. All right, that was poem. Now let's do one reading comprehension. How to deal with it. Here it's about an excerpt. Okay, so it's very interesting reading actually. It's about end. So I would say you can pause it, read it. So it's very important to read the comprehension first and then answer the questions. So you have to understand. So the most important part is the introduction. So let's read it. I'll give you a brief reading and go a little faster. So stay focused. So it says, now and then while we rested, we watched the laborious ant at work. So we're talking about ant, right? And I found nothing new in him. Wow, that's pretty negative. Certainly nothing to change my opinion of him. It seems to me that in the matter of intellect, the ant must be a strangely overrated bird. Okay, so he's saying a lot of negative things about ant. During many summers now I have watched him, when I ought to have been in better business, and I have not yet come across a living ant that seemed to have any more sense than a dead one. Well, pretty offensive, right? He's saying the living ant and the dead one, they're kind of same, so the ants are kind of useless. So he's saying, I refer to the ordinary ants, of course. I have no experience with other ones, like the Swiss one, African ones. Maybe they keep drilled armies and they have other expertise like other ants, but he's talking about just the ordinary ants and they're useless. That's what he's claiming, the author. And dispute about religion. Okay, that's just, here dot means this is a continuity of that sentence. He didn't write the whole thing. Those particular ants may be all that the naturalist paints them, but I am persuaded that the average ant is a sham. So the average ant is not really useful. So he thinks it's not really what it seems. So as you can understand, it's about the author is going against the laborious ant. So he thinks the ants are not that hardworking. All right, now second paragraph talks about, I admit his industry, of course. So he admits that he works hard. Okay, fine. He's the hardest working creature in the world when anybody's looking. So, okay, that's a little sarcastic. So if you're looking at him, you're going to see, wow, it's working so hard. But his leather-headedness is the point I make against him. Saying that leather-headedness means like the ant doesn't really have sense, like it's not smart. He goes out foraging. He makes a capture. Then what does he do? Go home? No, he goes anywhere but home. He doesn't know where home is. His home may be only 3 feet away, no matter he can't find it. He makes his captures. As I have said, it is generally something which can be of no sort of use to himself or anybody else. So it is usually 7 times bigger than it ought to be. He hunts out the awkwardest place to take hold of it, and he lifts it bodily up in the air by main force and starts not towards home but in the opposite direction. So this is completely sense of showing that how the ant is not smart. It picks up a thing and then instead of going home, it will go around different locations, even though home is so close, right? So now the second part here says, not calmly and wisely, but with a frantic haste which is wasteful of his strength. So when he's trying to go home, opposite direction from home, he's not going calmly or wisely, but frantic haste, like, he's like so much hurrying up here and there, wasting its energy, but not getting the work done. Now he patches up against pebbles instead of going around, he climbs it over. So this paragraph, rest of it talks about how the ant is not smart, is gonna make the work really hard, dragging his worthless property to the top, right? And then which is carry the sack of the flour from somewhere. This gives an example of like how it's not really smart move what he's playing. So he's gonna do all this hard work and not get the actual work done, which is taking the possession, the thing that he has, to home. So you can read this paragraph and get the idea about it. Now here, as he goes through the same adventure he had before, finally stops to rest. So he's gonna do all this hard work, he's not gonna get anything done. He's gonna rest, and a friend comes along. A friend will come, be like, hey, what's up, what's going on? Evidently, the friend remarks that a last year's grasshopper's leg is a very noble acquisition. So now we know what they're talking about, the grasshopper's leg. That's what the ant was pulling around to take it home. And when friend comes, friend is not smarter. Friend says, wow, you got such a noble acquisition, like you have grasshopper's leg. That must be really awesome. So friend is also not smart. So then he's like inquires, where you got it from, buddy? It's so much important. Evidently the proprietor, he doesn't even remember where he got it from, the person who took it. So then, with a judgment peculiarly antic, they take hold of opposite ends of that grasshopper's leg and begin to tug with all their might in opposite directions. So they pick it up, both friend, and pulling it on opposite directions. It's a pretty funny story. Now presently they take rest and they become like tired, like, oh, why you cannot move it? Because they're pulling it from opposite directions. So presently they take a rest and confer together. They decide that something is wrong. They don't know what is wrong, right? That's cute. Now they can't make out what. Then they go at it again, just as before. Now same result. Mutual recrimination follow. Evidently each accuses the other, be like, oh, it's your fault, man, why it's not moving. So they're accusing each other. So let's see, being an obstructionist, so they're accusing each other, like, you were the obstruction, you were the reason. They warm up and the dispute ends in a fight. So now they're gonna fight. They lock themselves, this is a very funny way of fighting. They lock themselves together and chew each other's jaws for a while. So it's a very funny way of fighting, right? But it's no fun. Look, it's a pretty dangerous fight for the ants. Look. Then they roll and tumble on the ground till one loses a horn or a leg. So this is no joke. Like losing a horn, a leg for the ant is like being crippled. Has to haul off for repairs. Now they make up and go to work. Then they make it up. Be like, all right, you know what? It's fine. They go to work again in the same old insane way. But the crippled ant is at a disadvantage because, of course, he lost his leg or something. Tug as he may, the other one drags off the booty and him at the end of it. So then they drag it around. So later, when they don't find the home, by and by, when that grasshopper leg has been dragged all over the same old ground once more, it is finally dumped at about the same spot. Why? Because the two of them, the two ants, they thoughtfully and decide that the dried grasshopper's legs are a poor sort of property after all. So then each starts off in a different direction to see if he can't find an old nail or something more useless. So technically it shows how the friend wasn't smart as well. So whole lot of confusions here. Now the conclusion says science has recently discovered that the ant does not lay up anything for winters. So they don't keep anything for winters. He does not work except when people are looking. That means only if you see it, you're gonna see, okay, it seems like it's working very hard, but it's not. And only then when the observer has a green naturalistic look and seems to be taking notes. All right. So this amount of deception is like showing something that's not true and will injure him for the Sunday schools. He has this just a sense of humor. He has not judgment enough to know what is good to eat from what isn't. Well, that's more insult and all. Then the last line here is important. It says, it is strange beyond the comprehension that so manifest a humbug as the ant. So such an like a useless ant. And he's saying it is so strange beyond comprehension. Means he can't even understand how this ant has been able to fool so many nations. Means everybody thinks, wow, ant works so hard and keep it up for so many ages without being found out. So he's surprised, he's fascinated by how ant is like actually making people fool, making them think that they work so hard, but he doesn't find anything impressive about it. Now let's answer the questions. The phrase "those wonderful Swiss and African ones which vote." Okay, so this line about was for what? So this is where it says, like, he was talking about the ordinary ants. Remember, like, the author actually talking about, okay, I refer to the ordinary ants. Of course, I have no experience with the wonderful Swiss and African ones. So it just shows that he believes that the behavior of ants is reflected on other living. He didn't talk about any other living creature, so it's not E. Acknowledge that his observation of a few do not necessarily apply to all. That's right. Knows that disproving a commonly held belief is challenging. It's not about commonly held belief. It's not about being challenging. H accepts that there are flaws in his interpretation. He didn't accept any flaws in his interpretation, so it's F. 27, the central idea that the average ant is a sham. The way he said that, the last line of the first paragraph. It's comical, yes, it's funny description. Comical means funny, of the inability of the ants to accomplish the task at his hand. Very nicely explained. It's not a comparison between ants, like keen observation that the level of intelligence, that it doesn't have any intelligence. Conclusion that ants value objects that are little practical to use to them. It's not about being little practical. It's about how funny description of the inability of the ants to accomplish a task. Then it says in paragraph 2, how do the words grabs, yanks, and tearing away contribute to the meaning? Alright, so paragraph 2 was about how the ant does the task. Like probably it's grabbing, yanking, like it's moving it around, being impatient. So how does this help? So they highlight that ants believe that his work is important. Maybe they illustrate that the ant is more efficient working on his own. So ant is not even efficient at all. That's what the passage suggests. They indicate the speed. So it's not about just the speed which ant completes the task. They emphasize the ant's anxious effort to be productive. Yeah, this is what it is. So ant is trying hard, like grabbing, yanking, tearing away, doing his anxious effort. He wants to be productive, but it is not. So ants doesn't believe that his work is important. It's nothing about its belief. Read the text. He comes to a weed. It never occurs to him to go around. No, he must climb it. It's like how he's making the job so hard. It's not using his brain. These details for what? Often waste his details. Okay, these details convey the central idea in the excerpt by showing that the ant often wastes his strength when working on a task. Maybe he's surprised by the effort. Ant is not surprised. Is oblivious to the most practical solution. Oblivious means he doesn't know. Yeah, that's it. He's oblivious to the practical solution. The practical solution would be like going around, but he doesn't. You must climb it. So he's not aware of the practical solution. 30 says, which of the following best explains the author's fascination? Remember, like such a humbug, how he was fascinated by it. The last line, I think, here, like, it is strange beyond comprehension that so manifest a humbug as well as the ant has been able to fool so many nations. So that shows how he was. This is the line. It is strange beyond. That's the fascination of the author. It says, read this sentence from paragraph 2. At the end of half an hour, he fetches up within 6 inches of the place he started from and lays his burden down. How does that sentence contribute to the development of the central idea? It reveals that the ant is aware of purposelessness of his effort and that he does not enjoy his work. He's not aware of it completely. It highlights how little the ant accomplished despite the great amount of effort he exerted. That's right. So at the end, he actually is only 6 inches away. It shows that how little was done. Even after so much moving around, yanking, grabbing here, there, he's just 6 inches away from the place he started from. That's like nothing got done. So, which sentence from paragraph 2 best supports the idea that sheer leather-headedness? Leather-headedness was like the stupidity the amount to ignorance and idiocy, like how stupid the ant is, which one it shows. So he goes out foraging, he makes a capture, then what does he do? Well, we still don't know up until this line that he was stupid. He lifts it bodily up in the air by main force. Still it doesn't say that he's stupid, he can lift it. When he gets up there, he finds that this is not the place. Okay, so this is stupidity. So what happens is, this line was in paragraph 2. Like, it shows that how in the beginning it was working so hard, trying to get up above the obstacles, and when he gets up there, he realizes, oh, this is not the place. And that's the stupidity. After all this work, you think this is not the place. So that's why it shows the stupidity. 33. Evidently the friend remarks, the last year's grasshopper's leg is very noble. Remember the friend came and friend was like, wow, you got a grasshopper's leg. It's so nice. It shows that the friend is also not smart. So it indicates the shift to realization that the ants place great importance on an item that has little value. It's not that. It introduces a transition to the idea that specific observations about one ant allow, and then for generalization about all ants. Well, not really actually. So it emphasizes a shift from an analysis of an action of the individual ant to commentary on the action of the ants working together. Yes, that's where this is where the third paragraph starts, like how now the commentary of how two ants are gonna work together, they're gonna fight, one of them gonna be crippled and all. So now it says, read this sentence, paragraph 3. The two perspiring ants inspected thoughtfully and decide that the grasshopper legs are poor, sort of thing. So how does this work? It creates a humorous critic of the ants' intense attitude toward their pointless work. Maybe it illustrates ants' confusion over their lack of positive results. No, it's not. They're not confused. It highlights the ants' frustration as they repeatedly choose a difficult task over that. Not really. Illustrate the ants' stubborn determination to hold to the worthless. No, they're not stubborn. They're giving up. So it says like, it creates a humorous critic of ants' intense attitude toward their pointless work. The work was pointless. Humorous is funny. How does the presence of the friend in paragraph 3 influence the first ant's behavior? So when friend comes, friend actually inspires him more to do this useless work. So the friend is not distracting him. The friend inspires the ant to consider a new approach, no new approach. The friend encourages the ant to continue his worthless effort. That's it. The friend himself is like, all right, you're doing great, keep it up. Okay guys, so I just explained one passage, one poem. So it's about, you see how I keep getting rid of the keywords. The keywords tell you how to eliminate the choices. You have to read the passage properly, understand it, eliminate choices. At the end, the last option standing is your answer. For more practice, you can join my online SHSAT course called Level Sigma. I have video lessons there, related worksheets, and practice questions, math and English both. You can take them as a quiz. You can check your scores after, and once you submit the worksheet, you can check the score and the explanations. I also have video explanations for the worksheets. Thank you very much.